I saw the thing. It said Mark 7 Productions,
Yeah.
Universal. I looked it up in the phone book and I called.
At 74 years old, Mark Harmon has finally said it out loud. 2 phone calls. That is all it took. One to a man he had never met. One to a woman who almost didn't answer. And between those 2 moments, separated by a decade, connected by the same quiet courage, an entire life was built. The most watched show in American television history. A marriage of 38 years that Hollywood said couldn't last. 2 sons who followed in their parents' footsteps. A grandchild born in 2025. And a legacy that, even now, keeps drawing people back. Most people know the legend. Very few know where it started. Mark Harmon was born into a name that America already knew. His father, Tom Harmon, was a Heisman Trophy winner, a decorated war hero, and a broadcaster whose voice defined Saturday afternoons for a generation of football fans. His mother, Elise Knox, was an actress and model who understood Hollywood from the inside. Between those 2 worlds, sport and screen, their son grew up understanding, without anyone having to say it plainly, that people expected things from a Harmon. None of it made breaking in easy. What it gave him was one small opening. Through his sister Kristen and her husband, singer Ricky Nelson, a guest appearance in 1973 on a show called Ozzy's Girls, a small part, a door cracked but not yet open. He graduated UCLA in 1974 with a communications degree and took a job in advertising and merchandising. He built something that looked like stability, and then, quietly but with gathering certainty, he realized it was the wrong life. When the advertising stuff kind of stopped being what I wanted, I just knew I had to get out of that and do something else, he said recently on the Fifth Column podcast. He was taking acting classes, but he had no agent, no connections, no idea what to do next. What he did next, no career counselor would ever recommend. He was sitting at home one evening watching Dragnet when the studio identifier for Mark 7 Limited appeared on screen. The production company owned by Jack Webb, creator of Dragnet, one of the most powerful men in 1970s Hollywood television. Mark Harmon did not have an appointment. He did not have a referral. What he had was the phone book sitting next to the television. He looked up the number, and he called. The secretary who answered could have done what secretaries in that position do 100 times a day, taken a name, a number, and let it quietly disappear. She didn't. She put him through to Webb himself. We talked for a couple of minutes, and he said, "Why don't you come in and talk to me?" Harmon recalled. I went into Universal, and I went into Mark 7, which at that time at Universal was a big enchilada man. In that meeting, Webb said something that has stayed with Mark for 50 years. He pointed to the young man's background as a UCLA quarterback and observed that he had always pretended to have the ball when he didn't, that the make-believe of the football field and the make-believe of acting were not so different after all. He saw something in the young man sitting across from him, something worth a chance. That conversation led directly to Mark's first real professional role, Officer Gus Corbin, in a 1975 episode of Adam 12, produced by Mark 7 Limited. One phone book, one secretary's decision, one producer who gave 5 minutes to a stranger with no business calling him. He had to be nice, Mark has said, thinking back. If he just goes, "I'm not taking that call," it's over. He has never forgotten that, not for 50 years, and it shows in every choice he has made since, in the career that followed, and in the way he has treated the people around him inside it. What followed was not overnight stardom. Mark Harmon was not built for overnight anything. Guest spots came steadily. Policewoman in 1975, Laverne and Shirley in 1976, small film roles, Comes a Horseman in 1978, Beyond the Poseidon Adventure in 1979. The work was real and the momentum genuine, but the breakthrough had not arrived. It arrived in 1983 through a hospital on the wrong side of Boston. St. Elsewhere was one of the defining dramas of the decade, a show that launched the careers of Denzel Washington, Ed Begley Jr., Howie Mandel, and David Morse, among others. Mark joined the cast as Dr. Robert Caldwell, and for the first time in his career, the industry had to stop filing him under promising and start paying attention. He was good, genuinely, undeniably good. Not in the showy way that generates awards conversation, but in the foundational way that makes a show work. He anchored scenes. He was present. He made the people around him better. These are not qualities that generate headlines, but they are the qualities that generate longevity. And longevity, it would turn out, was exactly what Mark Harmon was building toward. Then came 1986, and with it, something neither he nor anyone else had quite anticipated. People magazine named Mark Harmon its sexiest man alive, only the second man in history to receive that designation. The photographs went everywhere. His face appeared on covers, in windows, in the collective imagination of a country that had made its decision and was not interested in dissent. He was 34 years old, suddenly famous in a way that had nothing to do with the quiet ambition that had actually built his career, and already, even then, more interested in what would come next than in what had just arrived. He wore the recognition lightly. He did not chase it. He had a different call to make. Sometime in 1986, a mutual friend, widely believed to be actress Gina Hecht, suggested that Mark Harmon and Pam Dauber might get along. A group outing was proposed. Mark, consistent with everything the first phone call had already revealed about his character, cut directly to the point. He asked for her number. He wanted to call her himself. Pam Dauber was at that moment one of the most recognized women on American television. Mork and Mindy had made her a household name from 1978 to 1982. She had co-starred alongside a then unknown Robin Williams, one of the most combustible comedic talents of a generation, and had held the show together as its warm, grounded, genuinely funny center. She had done it with a naturalness that audiences received as simply who she was. By 1986, she was starring in My Sister Sam on CBS. She was 34. She had navigated the particular emotional landscape that exists between the end of a major success and the uncertain territory of what comes next. She had been through difficult relationships. She had suffered a loss that never fully leaves. The death of her sister Leslie in 1976, gone at just 22 years old during open heart surgery. She had built from all of that a very clear sense of what she was and was not willing to accept from another person. She had a list, she once said, a long list of qualities she wanted in a partner: strength, intelligence, sensitivity, warmth, a sense of humor. When asked later whether Mark Harmon fit that list, she was direct. Well, I guess so. He's fabulous. Mark got her number. He called. He got her answering machine. He began to leave a message, keeping it simple, suggesting coffee, not assuming anything. And then Pam Dauber, who had been listening from the other room, picked up. They went out that night. They have been together ever since. They got engaged in the summer of 1986, just months after that first call. They kept separate homes for about a year, deliberate, unhurried, two people who recognized what they had and refused to rush it. And on March 21st, 1987, in a chapel at the Harvard School in San Fernando Valley, Mark's alma mater, they got married. The ceremony was attended by only their closest circle. No press, no photographers, no entertainment reporters camped on the lawn. They flew to Vancouver for their honeymoon. Mark was filming a television movie there at the time. It was not a glamorous arrangement. It was real, and real, for both of them, was the point. Years later, Mark was asked about the ring he wears on his finger, even when he isn't filming. A distinctive band, not a standard Hollywood accessory. His answer was simple. I wear it because I'm proud to be married, and I'm proud of who I'm married to. Not complicated, not performed, just true. But their first years of marriage were not without turbulence, though not the kind the tabloids traffic in. In 1987, the same year they exchanged vows, Mark and Pam found themselves at the center of a painful family situation. His sister Kristen, who had once helped give him his first step into television through her marriage to Ricky Nelson, was struggling. Ricky had died in a plane crash in 1985, leaving Kristen to navigate grief, divorce, and serious personal difficulties that had begun to affect her ability to care for her son Sam, then 12 years old. Mark had already played a significant role in convincing Kristen to enter rehab. During that period, Sam came to live with Mark and Pam. When Kristen completed the program, she came home to unexpected news. Mark and Pam had petitioned for custody of Sam, arguing that she was not yet fit to care for him. The case became highly publicized. Kristen, reflecting on it later, described her initial reaction as disbelief. Mark argued that his sister's ongoing struggles made her an unreliable parent. The court proceedings were difficult, public, and deeply painful for everyone involved. Mark and Pam ultimately made the decision to drop the petition. It was a moment that revealed something important about the kind of people they were beneath the public surface, willing to wade into the hardest family situations out of love, and also willing to stop when stopping was the right thing to do. The following year brought a different kind of test. A car accident outside their home, a burning vehicle, two teenagers trapped inside. When Pam heard the commotion from the street, she was the first to the scene. She assessed the situation immediately, went back to the house, and told Mark what was happening. He went out with a sledgehammer, broke the car's glass, and pulled both teenagers to safety before the vehicle's fuel could ignite. When people praised him afterward, he redirected every bit of it. The rescue wouldn't have happened without Pam, he said. She was the one who heard it. She was the one who acted first. He simply did what she told him needed to be done. Either you do or you don't, he said of the moment. No calculation, no hesitation. The car could have exploded. That was not a consideration. Two sons arrived in those years. Sean Thomas in 1988, Ty Christian in 1992. And with them came the question that every two-career household eventually has to face, though rarely with the particular stakes that fame attaches to it. Pam Dauber was a successful actress with every reason to keep working. The industry wanted more of her, and she looked at her children, looked at the life they were building together, and made a decision that Hollywood still doesn't quite know how to account for. She stepped back. I did everything you can do in this business, she said simply, and then I had children, and it's like, I'm not going to chase this fame thing. She wanted to drive her kids to school. She wanted to be at the birthday parties, bring the cupcakes, show up for the ordinary moments that add up invisibly into a childhood. They don't care about what I did, she said of her sons. They care about what they are doing. They want their parents to care about what they are doing. There was also something more practical in her reasoning, something she said plainly. I don't think two people can work all the time in show business and stay married. One of them had to hold the center. She chose to be that person. And while Mark was on set in New Guinea, filming a movie that, by his own later account, was not worth making, he missed the moment his firstborn son took his first steps. He has never forgotten it. The professional commitment that cost him that morning was not worth what it cost. He said so, plainly, to anyone who asked. Mark has been equally plain about what Pam's choice made possible. She's been part of all that, he said of his years on NCIS, not as a polite acknowledgement, but as a statement of fact. The 18 seasons happened because someone held everything else together while he was gone. Close friends describe them as fundamentally different people whose differences work in their favor. Pam is outgoing. Mark is quiet, private, almost shy by the standards of his industry. They don't always like the same things. Mark once considered taking a role that Pam advised him against. He didn't take it. We don't generally like the same thing, he said, and that's been healthy for us, actually. Healthy. That is the word he chose. Not easy, not frictionless. Healthy. The word you use when you understand that two people who see everything identically are not a partnership, but an echo chamber. In 2017, they reached 30 years. It had not been a smooth year. Mark had undergone knee surgery. A close friend had died. The kind of year that strips away everything non-essential and reminds you what you are actually made of and who you actually need. They renewed their vows at their California home with 20 to 30 people present, the same circle that had been there at the beginning, the ones who had watched the whole thing unfold across 3 decades. Mark and Pam wrote their own vows. When they exchanged them, a source who was in that room said afterward that there was not a dry eye among the witnesses. And then that event completely changed Mark's reputation. NCIS arrived in 2003. The character was Special Agent Leroy Jethro Gibbs, a Naval Criminal Investigative Service investigator with a moral code that occasionally bent into stubbornness, a leadership style built on silence and implication rather than words, a quality of quiet authority that Mark inhabited so completely that for nearly 2 decades it was simply impossible to imagine the show without him. He stayed for 18 seasons, through cast changes and format evolutions, and the natural entropy that 2 decades brings to any creative enterprise. He stayed, and the audience stayed with him. Year after year, NCIS became the most watched scripted program in America. Not because of spectacle, because of Gibbs, because of the particular certainty Mark brought to that character, the sense that in a world of confusion and compromise, this man knew what was right and would do it at whatever cost. Along the way, something quietly remarkable happened. His son Sean, the boy whose first steps he had missed while filming in New Guinea, joined the cast of the show his father had built. Sean Harmon played a young Leroy Jethro Gibbs in multiple NCIS episodes, appearing in flashback sequences that showed who Gibbs had been before the audience met him. Father and son on the same show, the professional and the personal finally in the same room. When Mark left in October 2021, in the 4th episode of season 19, the departure was quiet, as everything about him tends to be. Gibbs walked away from the job, went to Alaska to live alone in a cabin with his dog and his silence, and whatever peace a man like that eventually finds. That was the end of something that had been, for 20 years, a fixed point in American television. Except, as it turned out, it was not quite the end. In October 2024, Mark returned to the NCIS universe as narrator of NCIS Origins, a prequel series following a younger Gibbs, played by Austin Stowell, through his early career. His voice, instantly recognizable after 18 seasons, now serves as the bridge between who the younger character is becoming and who the audience already knows him to be. Showrunner David J. North has been direct about what that voice means. I know I get feedback that a lot of times it's Mark's VO that brings people to tears. I know just what his Gibbs voice means to the fan base. The plan, North confirmed, is for Harmon to continue narrating for as long as the show runs, and as long as Mark wants to do it. Then, on November 11th, 2025, Veterans Day, something fans had barely dared to hope for actually happened. Mark Harmon appeared on screen as Leroy Jethro Gibbs, not just a voice, physically present in a 2-hour crossover event between NCIS and NCIS Origins, his first substantial on-camera return since walking away 4 years earlier. The image of him sitting in an Alaskan cabin, tinkering with an old radio, writing in a journal about his early days, it moved people the way that only things connected to long love and long history can move people. His statement about the return was, characteristically, brief. They came to me with an idea for Gibbs that I liked. It seemed like a good time to check in with him. I hope fans enjoy it. They did. Today, Mark Harmon and Pam Dauber is 74. They live quietly in California. No social media, largely out of the spotlight they never chased. The last time they were seen together publicly was a Saturday morning California flea market in 2024. Two people in their 70s doing what married people do, with no entourage and no performance. In May 2025, Sean and his wife Courtney welcomed a baby boy, Cooper Knox Harmon. Mark and Pam became grandparents. Ty works as a screenwriter. The family their choices built is intact and growing. Mark still wears something on his ring finger. He is still executive producer on the NCIS franchise. His voice still narrates NCIS Origins, still connecting a younger man's story to the one the audience already knows. Still, after everything, going home to something genuine. If Mark Harmon's story reached something in you today, share this with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe so the next story finds you when the time is right.